All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the SCORE Email Marketing Essentials webinar. I am your host, Craig Malmloff, and for over the past 15 years, I've been doing strategic marketing, consumer products, and service development. I've helped a range of startups and small business through my consulting company, and I'm excited to be volunteering with SCORE and helping with this Zoom webinar. For those of you that don't know about SCORE, for over 50 years, SCORE has served as America's premier source of free business mentoring and education. As a partner with the U.S. Small Business Administration, also known as the SBA, SCORE has helped over 11 million entrepreneurs through mentoring, workshops, and educational resources since 1964. You can schedule a free 1-hour phone or video mentoring session at indianapolisscore.org. Some basics about this Zoom webinar: participants are muted and no video, so don't worry about your pajama bottoms or people in your background. We'll be utilizing the Q&A and chat features, and then polls later on. Those should be on the bottom of your screen. Utilize the Q&A for questions, and then upvote other people's questions or your own so that we can answer them accordingly. Chat right now is just to me at the host at this time, and then I'll notify you when we utilize the poll feature. We'll handle some questions during, and most questions at the end of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded. You see the icon in the left corner there, recording. And so it will be available, as well as the presentation slides, via email afterwards. Great audience today, over 50 people returning from our previous webinars and over 60 new people as well. We have people across central Indiana, as far as Arizona and Maryland. So welcome and thank you for joining. We're gonna look at the agenda here real quick. And so we have our intro that we're going to go through. We're going to look at email lists, how to grow and optimize. We're going to look at email design, how to write email content in minutes, and how to design with free tools. We're going to look at email timing and measurement, how to measure success, and then go through marketing plan and case study, service providers, what you have to do to get started, and then other sources of info as well. We'll wrap it up with some Q&A. So we have about 40 minutes of content, so there's gonna be plenty of time for questions. So definitely think of some questions, add them to the Q&A, and we'll address them as we go. All right, with that, let's jump in. So I wanna re-highlight that email is just one part of basic building blocks of an overall digital strategy. So a digital strategy is a multi-pronged approach that leads strangers to become customers and beyond. Why we focus on email is it's an owned channel. So unlike Facebook or YouTube, you actually own it. You don't have to rely on anybody else. Also, it's one of the highest return on investments. So for every dollar you spend on it, you get $35 to $45 in return. So if you haven't looked at it, you definitely should. With that, for more information on the overall digital strategy, please revisit our previous webinars on marketing basics. It's on SCORE Indianapolis YouTube channel. So you can go to Google, type in SCORE Indianapolis YouTube, and you'll find it there. All right. So marketing, the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, and promotion. Definitely well known. We're going to look at 4 things with email, and those are list, design, timing, and measure. So breaking down what those are. A list is email addresses from various sources, segmented and organized. Design is your subject line, your pre-header, layout, content, and CTAs, or calls to action. Timing is the time or day of the week that you send it, and then as well as frequency. So how often you send it. Are you sending it once a week, once a month, things like that. Last one's important, so measurement or measure. So measuring how many subscribers you have, what your open rates are, what your click-throughs are, what your bounce rates are, and all these things, you'll hear me reiterate this several times: test, learn, and repeat. So the first one we're going to look at here is email lists. So how you start building your email list. And so the ideal case is to have people opt in to receive communications from you, and then double confirm that it's a valid email address. At the same time, you have probably existing customers, right? So in your CRMs or customer lists that you already have are great starts. Make sure your privacy policy is up to date and that it includes that you will market to them via email. At the same time, for e-commerce sites, if you have an e-commerce site, you can usually see people use a checkbox for the option of signing up. So in the upper right-hand corner, you can see an image where it says sign up for weekly B&H email newsletters. So that's a way, once again, to continue to build your email list. Another great way is events, so trade shows, giveaways, surveys, mailings. One example there is on the far right, so you can see, hey, we're listening. Take a few minutes to tell us how you really feel. And they're going to give you a gift card for it as well. And so that's a way to build your email also. And then there's direct mailings. So combining kind of the physical and the digital, you can do a direct mailing of a postcard. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. Basically, anything that you provide of value digitally, try and look to get something in return, ideally the email address, name, things like that. And so one example here, get started with free templates, right? So website content, how-tos, newsletters, you can see they ask for first name, last name, and email address, and that's a way to continue to build their list. The last one is purchased. And so I am wary of this, and so it's because you can get blacklisted due to spam complaints. So it's very easy to purchase lists. At the same time, be careful. One of the things I encourage people to do is if they are going to purchase lists is to have a separate email domain. And so where your normal email may be, Craig@funfoundry.com, if you're going to send stuff out onto a purchase list, have a separate one where it's like mailfunfoundry.com. Because if you get blacklisted, you're not going to be able to send emails to your regular customers because they're going to stop it because they think it's spam. So make sure you have a separate domain if you're purchasing one. So basically all these inputs, right, you want to combine them. So in an Excel file, in a Google Sheet, something like that, the more you have, the better, and then you can always filter it down. So looking at the next piece is how we start to segment that data. So if you have Excel skills or data manipulation skills, definitely a benefit here. If not, definitely take some courses to learn a little bit more. And so you can see type, location, industry, businesses, demographics, all things that you can segment by. So the example we have here, email address, first name, last name, company name, and birthday. With the birthday, obviously we can get people's age and start kind of segmenting by that. At the same time, see what your physical audience is versus your digital audience. So if you have a physical location, are there promotion-driven things? So when you do a buy one, get one free, does that drive traffic? Try that same thing with email, right? Are there people that respond, and can you segment them accordingly to that because they respond to a promotion? At the same time, seasonality. So if Mother's Day is coming around and that's a big season for you, look at it with your email as well. How can you engage your audience and your email list in seasonality? And then the last is if you have a website, use some of your learnings from your website. How are people visiting your website? Is it on mobile? Is it on tablet? Is it desktop? Is it from Apple devices with iOS? Is it from Android? And then who are their email providers as well? It just helps you to understand your audience better and better target them. The last piece of email list is maintaining them. And so you should continually segment your list as well as maintenance. So you need to remove hard bounced emails. So hard bounced ones are invalid email addresses. So they've expired, right? The person left the company, or they gave you the wrong email address, or there was a typo. And so those are hard bounced ones. At the same inactive ones, if you have email addresses where they haven't interacted with one of your emails, so opened, clicked, things like that, you should probably remove them from your address book. So with all that information, we're going to start looking at an example that you can grow your list. So the public library here in Marion County, as well as Hamilton County and many other ones across the country, gives database access to referenceusa.com. And basically with your library card, you can access this via online. And it basically is a consumer and business address database. And so on the left and right there, you can see the different ones, but you can segment by zip code, by mile radius from a location, by state, city. On the consumer side, you can segment by lifestyle, demographics, etc. And so granted, it is a limit of you can only download 250 contacts per search, but you can modify your search to build a pretty good list. And so by demographic, you can do it by home income, and you can collect more and more contacts. So obviously there are pay features for this, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but this is one of the better options because it helps segment your list versus just buying an off-the-shelf list. So if we went through this exercise, got 30,000 contacts, we downloaded the information, then we want to continue to segment it a little bit further into groups. And so for this example, people that are interested in pets, people that are interested in the outdoor, people that have an household income level of 2,000 to 4,000 or 200,000 to 400,000, that would kind of be a target that we wanted to go after. And so that limits it down to about 1,500 contacts. So once again, you can kind of target them specifically. With that, obviously you can purchase email address or email campaigns from referenceusa.com. Costs range anywhere from 18 cents to 40 cents, and the response rate is anywhere from 1% to 3%. So definitely an option there. At the same time though, you're bulk emailing people, and so they might mark it as spam. A better way is to combine that physical and digital marketing, so doing a direct mail campaign with a postcard promotion. So you have your segmented list, you push it out with a postcard, and then you get them to opt in through online registration. And so it's a better way because you've had them actually opt in. So cost ranges for a direct mail postcard campaign, anywhere from 30 cents to 70 cents, and then the response rate a little bit higher, 1% to 9%. So that's kind of an example that you could use. So if we went through that entire one, we sent out the postcards, we got about 100 customers from those 1,500, provided their information for the promotion, and we were able to capture their email addresses. From that, right, you take that, put it in your contact list, you tag it with direct mail to once again help segment it to make sure, okay, I remember that this contact came through direct mail, and hey, they responded to direct mail and this promotion. How else could I target them with a future promotion or campaign? All right, okay. So a lot all at once, I understand. So we're gonna do a quick poll, and while you guys are doing the poll, I'll look through any questions and see if we can answer some of those, all right? So the first poll here is the best way to get email addresses. Is it A, customers new and existing? Is it B, events? Is it C, website content? Is it D, purchased? E, the first three, A, B, and C. So give me a second here and I will launch the poll. You guys should be able to see it popping up on your screen. So vote accordingly, and then I will show the results. All right, a couple more seconds here, and then we'll wrap it up. Feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A at the bottom. All right, we're gonna end polling here. Good job, everybody. So I'm gonna share the results. You should see, yes, E is the best way. So Definitely not purchased, right? So customers, new, existing, events, website content, all good examples. All right, let's look at the questions here real quick. So one is from Mike, appreciate it. Did you say to use a separate domain for email or just a separate email address? So domain, a separate domain. So if you get a lot of spam requests against a certain domain, they'll start blocking that domain. So separate domain for email. Obviously, it will be a separate email address also. Another question from Ken asks, what's a good call to action to have in a direct mail piece for obtaining email addresses? We'll talk about calls to actions a little bit later here. All right, thanks you guys for your questions. All right, moving on here. Email design. So email design, you can see an example here of a score email. There's 5 main parts to an email design. You have your from, your subject line, your pre-header, graphics and photos, your text content, links and calls to action, name, physical address, and unsubscribes. It's called Canspam. We'll talk about that as well. So first up here, the from reply. So this is ideally the name of your business. Usually it's kind of a general email address. So an info at or indyscore@gmail is the example here. But you can see from Indianapolis score and then the email address. The reply you can have separate if you want to kind of split out the two things. The next is subject line. The subject line is the most important part of your email. I want to reiterate that again. The most important part of your email. It's what gets you noticed and gets the email opened. So very important. Keeping it short and specific, 9 words to 60 characters. That's including spaces on the 60 characters. If you can personalize it in any way, whether it's with names or emoticons, and then with emoticons, there's thousands out there you can use, and a lot of them have already been added in for some of the email service providers, so they're very easy to put in. So if you personalize or you add emoticons, you're increasing the likelihood of being noticed and opened. Spam avoidance, so definitely avoid all caps, definitely avoid things in red, definitely avoid things that have a lot of exclamation points as well. So all things to consider. The next thing is the pre-header. So this is one thing that a lot of time gets mixed. So it expands upon the subject line, kind of like a tagline, and kind of pulls you into the email. Once again, you want to be short and specific, 30 to 80 characters. So you can kind of see in the score example, there's personalization with the first name, and then telling more about the subject line. So you can see with this one, right? Not exactly, we weren't under 60, we weren't under 80 characters for subject and pre-header. You do the best you can, and so trying to get in that range is the ideal. So as close as you can get to the 60 characters and the 80 characters. So looking at this piece, how it would be displayed, you can see in a Gmail desktop environment, you have the from that says Indianapolis score there. You have the live webinar with the emoticon, and then it shows all of the subject line and then just a little bit of pre-header. You look at it in Gmail and mobile on an Android device, it's a little different, right? So the subject line gets cut, you see more of the pre-header as well. And so all things to think about as you get to know your audience, what platforms they're coming from. As you look at the other emails in this inbox, right, there's other emoticons in there. They're usually at the beginning. So you can see in desktop, it doesn't matter. You see both of them. So you see the Indianapolis score, you see the Marlene from Cluster, and you see the WeFunder. But when you switch to mobile, since WeFunder put the emoticon at the end, it gets cut off. And so it's not as easily seen. At the same time on mobile, you can see there's icons on the left. And so you can see the score Indianapolis kind of logo. The information has their logo also. And so additional ways, right, that you can kind of personalize your email two different platforms. So next, we're going to look at graphics and photo sources. So once people click into the email, having great graphics and photos definitely help. And so if you have your own photography or illustrations, definitely use them. If you have an on-staff or freelance graphic designer, or even an intern to create graphics, definitely helps. If not, these are some good sources. So Canva, we've talked about before in some webinars. There's free as well as paid options, excuse me. And then PX here is a photo one that offers free things. So great sources to kind of help add some graphics and photos to your emails. Next one is templates. And so there's plenty of templates out there that you can search. So some things to consider is definitely think mobile first. A lot of people are doing more on mobile. If it's not mobile first, definitely think responsive design. And so it responds to what it's viewed on. So if it's viewed on a tablet, it will respond accordingly. If it's on a desktop, it will respond accordingly. Same with a mobile device. Definitely do some Google searching and see what other people are doing out there. So on the far right there, you can see landscaping as far as different templates that are available. And then I think my big suggestion here is just because it looks pretty, make sure it delivers on what you need. So modify the template accordingly to what you need. All right. Next part is the call to actions. And so the CTAs, this is where you want people to do something. You want them to click here, you want them to go here, those kind of things. And so make sure that it gives the receiver a reason, right? So keep it simple and short. Make sure it's action oriented. If it can be above the fold or the scroll in the email, that helps. And then obviously contrasting colors. So the register now, the see how, read more, get the book, all examples here of good calls to actions. Your text content, right? So how do you create this text content? And so answering these three questions will definitely help. So what are you offering? In your email, what are you offering to the people that's receiving it? How's it going to help them? And what do you want them to do? So what's that action that you want them to take? And so you can do this a variety of different ways. And so alliteration in your subject line or in your content here. So you can see examples here. 7 simple solutions to save. 5 fast fix for customer service frustration. And then you can use allusions as well. So something that's similar, right? So best deal ever. Sweet dreams are made of cheese. So once again, just kind of bringing a smile to people's faces and kind of, making them get involved with your email. Also rhyming is an example. So 4 travel must-haves to buy before you fly. And then just sharing your knowledge, but trying different tones. So if you're entertaining, if you're warning them, or if you're informing them. So definitely a lot of copywriting usually involved. And so think about that as far as maybe taking an additional copywriting course to get better at doing it. Other ways of creating text content in minutes is utilizing existing content or text that you have. So whether it's in something else, print that you have, or something else on your website, look at using that existing content and just rewording it. When I approach an email, I always do the subject line first and then come back to it and revise it. After that, you do the pre-header, make sure it's pulling you in. And so it's kind of like that tagline that you have as you go into it. And then make sure your picture and image supports the message. Make sure it's not a distraction. The paragraph should be about 50 to 200 words. And make sure it's about one thing. And so the more things you add in there, the more distracting it kind of gets. And so if you can keep it to one thing, it definitely helps. And then finally, your call to action button. Make sure it's short, urgency-oriented text. At the same time, this is great to bounce off a coworker or your team as far as when you get into this content to make sure that it's resonating with them as well. Also, be an observer of email. We all get plenty of email, right? And so look at those emails and see what they're trying to do and see if what things resonate with you as well. The last pass is the legal kind of part. So the Canspam Act of 2003 stands for Controlling the Assault of Non-Solicited Pornography in Marketing. So it requires basically an accurate business name, a valid physical postal address, easy opt-out of receiving future emails, and being able to honor that request within 10 days. So the FTC monitors this and can fine up to $16,000 for a single email violation. Example here on below, you can see Indianapolis score, the address, the unsubscribe feature as well. So I'm not a lawyer, but I can say I've never seen this really actively enforced, but it is a good business practice to do. So definitely having the unsubscribe feature, making sure that if people don't want to receive it anymore, they can get out, and you can make sure you're focusing on the people that truly care about your content. All right, coming to our next poll. So email design poll. What's the most important part of an email? Is it A, unsubscribe? Is it B, graphic and photos? Is it C, subject line? Or is it D, calls to action? All right, so launching the poll now. You guys should see it pop up here, and I'll look to see what questions people have. All right, about another 30 seconds or so here, and we'll close the poll. All right, get your last ones in, and get to close the poll here, and share the results. All right, good job, everybody. So yes, the subject line is the most important part for sure. So call to action, definitely important, but subject line, right? Once again, in your inbox, that's what people are gonna see, and it needs to entice them in order to click on it. Looking at questions here, so Tanya had a question about the postcard or direct mailer, asking how many times it should be sent out or how often it should be sent out. And so that depends, right? So I've seen people do it monthly. I've seen people do it quarterly. Once again, it looks kind of, how your audience reacts. And your physical audience, if you have it at a retail location, is it seasonal that, hey, Mother's Day is a great time, or in the fall, or, over 4th of July. So definitely a test and learn mentality as far as, hey, do one, see what kind of reactions you get, and then adjust accordingly and try another one and see what you can do. Another question we have here is, yep, the PowerPoint with the email recommendations. Yep, for sure. So this presentation will be available afterwards, and we'll email that out to you. All right. Looking at our next part here, we're gonna go into email timing. So all kinds of things out there online as far as the best day of the week, the best time, all those kind of things for sending emails. So for me, it's do your research, test your audience. It varies widely. So if you're doing business to business, if you're doing business to consumer, it all very much varies. And so in general, good starting points, Tuesday and Thursday are usually good days. At the same time, after 8 a.m. and after 1 p.m. local time, whether it's Eastern, Central, Pacific, Mountain time, think about local time. Or if you're doing across the nation, do you segment it by zip code or things like that? Frequency, once again, once a week is a good starting point. At the same time, I've seen people do it once a month. I've seen people do it multiple times a week. And so once again, understand your audience and how they react to it. You can see on the graph there, Tuesday and Thursday, obviously big ones. Wednesday's decent as well. falls off Saturday and Sunday. And that's, probably more on the business side, but at the same time for business to consumer, that can pick up on Saturday and Sunday. So that's why, once again, I reiterate, test and learn with your audience to see when they're opening and clicking through. Next example here is kind of an advanced example, but it's a way to show kind of automation and how things can vary. And so this was for a trade show. So the trade show was a set date. And so from that, backing off when you should send things 7 days before, 3 days before, 14 days, 60 days, things like that, as well as, okay, it's a Tuesday morning one, it's a Thursday afternoon, it's Sunday evening, it's Friday morning. And so you can kind of see in there how people are added to lists, an email campaign goes out. How they react to it depends where they go. So if they open, they're added to another list with another email campaign. If they unsubscribe, another list saying thank you for unsubscribing. Likewise, if they don't open, they get a separate list and email campaign. At the same time, if they do the action and visit your site, they would get a different one. And so kind of gets complicated and kind of can spin out very quickly. And so unless it's a standard kind of transactional customer where you're sending, hey, an order receipt, sending shipping information or delivered notification, or you're a very seasoned email marketer, I would suggest you do it individually first before you start trying to automate a thing. Just because I've seen things go sideways very quickly if you don't think through all the different options that are available. All right. Next one is email measurement. And so you've sent the email at the specific time you need it, and now you're starting to get some of that measurement data back. And so once again, test, learn, and repeat with your audience. So if you've segmented the subscribers, you have very specific targets to hit, and so you should be doing fairly well on these. So open rates, so if somebody clicks on your email and opens it, a good starting point is 15% to 25%. Click-throughs is where they've opened it and actually click on the call to action within the email, 1 to 3%. Bounces, so basically you've sent it to an email address, it's no longer in use, or somebody's mailbox is full, or they have an out of office on. These are all examples of bounces. So 0.1 to 0.5 are good starting points. Unsubscribes, 0.1 to 0.3. So definitely all over the map. You'll see plenty of things quoted out there as far as, hey, this is what it should be. Once again, look to your audience. So I've seen open rates below the 15%, but the click-throughs at 25%. And so, that's really usually what you want is the click-through or the action. And so take these kind of worth a grain of salt as far as try and be in that area, but make sure it's delivering on what you want. At the same time, it can highlight if you need to focus on something more. So if you're getting high bounce rates, you should probably look once again at your email list and how you can clean it up. If you're getting a bunch of higher unsubscribe rate, then you need to look how are you getting your list, right? If you purchased a list, right, you're probably gonna get really high unsubscribes. So all things to consider. Also, you can see that there's all kinds of email measurement statistics that you can get. Sometimes you can get lost in all of these analytics. And so, you can see, hey, where in the world was your email opened? What kind of device was it on? How many times did people click on it? How many times did people click on a certain area of it? Heat mapping, all kinds of different things that you can look at. And so just make sure you focus on the 5 key measures first. And so how many people did you send it to? What was the open rate? What was the click-through? What was the bounce rate? And what was the unsubscribes? So once you focus on those kind of 5 and understand them and get to know them better, then you can look at more of the other pieces of the email measurement. All right. Looking at a poll, so what is the best time to send an email? Is it Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern? Is it Thursday at 1 p.m. Central? Is it Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific? Or D, does it depend on your audience? So I'll launch the poll here. So you guys can see it. Feel free to ask questions after you've done the poll too, so we'll review some questions. All right, about another 10 or 15 seconds, then we'll close the poll down. All right. So good job, everybody. Yes, so it depends on your audience. So yes, in general, Tuesday at 8 a.m. would work, Thursday at 1 p.m. would, but it depends on your audience. So definitely start with those and then go from there. So looking at some questions here, we had Edgar ask, what size postcard do you prefer? It depends on what you're trying to send as far as graphically and how much information you have. Always looking at price as far as a direct mailer is definitely something to consider. Mike asked about MailChimp. So we'll talk about email providers here in a little bit. So yeah, MailChimp is definitely one of the main providers. And then Letitia asked, as far as where do you find the measurement statistics for email? So it depends on what software platform you use, but most of them are pretty obvious. They may have a reports menu. They may have something else in it where you can get those kind of things, but it's through an email service provider. It's not obviously in your normal kind of email thing. All right. Moving on. So looking at an email marketing plan. So if you're going to do email marketing, these are some things to consider for your plan. So what's your overall goal? Is it just awareness? Is it building brand awareness or awareness of your product? Is it engagement? Is it trying to interact with your customer or the people you're sending it to? Is it simply conversion, right? Are you just trying to get the people you email to convert and buy something? Also, what type of relationship do you want with the people you're emailing? Do you not care who they are? Are they just anonymous? Are they a customer and client, and so you want to get to know them more and more? Or is it a community of people that you can address? Likewise, what type of content are you going to share with them? Is it something new and novel? Are you going to position yourself as an expert in the area of what you're emailing about? Are you going to tell them a story, whether it's like a customer or a success story? Is it purely transactional, where you're just giving them a receipt or shipping data? And then promotional. Obviously, we all get plenty of promotional emails, right? And then what's your approach? Are you sending it all out in bulk? Are you trying to create some kind of journey where they open this email, they get this, and then this? Are you personalizing and segmenting, right, as we talked previously? And then the metrics we talked about as well. What's most important for your email marketing plans? Is it to gain subscribers so that you can continue to market to them? Is it truly the open rate? Is it the click-through? Or is it if you can drive people to your website or do something else? So all these things, testing, learning, and repeating. So I continue to say that just because as consumers, we continue to change. So things that used to work a year or so ago don't work as well. And so that's why here in 2020, in May, there are certain things that are working and they're bound to change. And the audience shifts as well. So continue to test and learn and repeat. So we're going to look at a case study here. So the goal of this one was awareness. And it was a type of relationship with a customer, and it was promotional. You can see order now for 10% saving. It was bulk, so it was mailed out to a non-segmented audience. So you can see sent to 500 people. The open rate was decent. It was 20%, 102. Clicks were not good though, so only 2, about 0.4%, and bounces were high and unsubscribes were high. And so once again, they didn't segment, right? and they had a list that was just kind of added to, it wasn't opted in. And so taking another look at it and saying, hey, let's focus our message, right? So instead of the 3 or 4 different things going on, you only have 2 things going on, and it says buy more, save more on stickers. Nice call to action buttons there as well, order now. And so with that, and then segmenting and cleaning up their email list, they were able to get better rates. And so you can see sends, it was down obviously from 500 to 125, but their open rate held, their clicks were a lot better, their bounces and unsubscribes were a lot lower. And so that's where you want those clicks, because hey, people are ordering now, going to your website, and have a greater chance to convert and buy the actual product that you're pushing. All right. Next, we're going to look at some email marketing providers. And so definitely evaluate your needs before you get into email marketing providers. How many contacts do you have? What's the number of emails that you want to send? What's your technical expertise? And so all things to consider. So contact-wise here, what else to do? So, do you want to do a landing page? Do you want to do registration, surveys, donations, online store? More and more programs are trying to do different things. And so not just be an email marketing provider, they want to do other things as well. And so they've continued to add these things. So 2 of the big ones, Constant Contact and MailChimp. Constant Contact, I definitely grew up basically using email marketing with Constant Contact, and all these other ones, good ones also. But looking at these 2 main ones, Constant Contact offers 200 contacts that you can upload. Emails, unlimited, you can send as many as you want. It has surveys and websites. It's extremely easy to use. So definitely drag and drop capability, able to move things around easily. It does cost though, so it's $20 per month. MailChimp on the other side allows 2,000 contacts, emails 10,000 per month, surveys and websites still. A little more difficult to use. I've had people start with MailChimp and then switch to Constant Contact just because it was a little more difficult to use. At the same time, it's free, right? So you can't argue with free. Look at the other options as well. So I've included some here: HubSpot, Campaign Monitor, OmniSend, MailerLite, SendPlus, FreshMarketer, all examples here of different email marketing providers that you could use. Definitely do your research, look through them, and kind of understand what you want to do. So you've gone through this and you're ready to get started. What should you do? And so first off, definitely look at dedicating a person to be responsible. So who's going to help lead this and be the person you look to get it done? At the same time, if you can have another person or a team of people to help create and review content, because it can be difficult. And sometimes the creative juices just aren't flowing. And so having an additional person or team to review it, critique it, definitely helps. Taking additional courses, so whether it's with Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, definitely take additional courses to learn more. Dedicate the time, and so say out of a week, hey, I'm going to dedicate an hour to email marketing, and take that time. Then finally, it's taking the leap and actually doing it. And as you're doing it, testing and learning and seeing what works with your audience, what doesn't work, taking tidbits from other people, seeing if they work for you, and going from there. Some good email marketing information sources. So Litmus is great as far as resources. Campaign Monitor, obviously they are a service provider, but they also offer great resources, really good emails. Obviously, you can see why. And then Google Postmaster. So this is Gmail specific, but a lot of times it is a huge thing as far as a lot of people use Gmail. And so it'll help you kind of identify how you can make sure it shows how you want in Gmail. All right, looking at the essential takeaways. So definitely make sure email marketing is part of an overall digital marketing plan. Know your customer and the segments. Make sure you focus on the 4 keys: list, design, timing, and measure. And then, as I've mentioned several times, definitely test, learn, and repeat. And so we're going to jump here into more questions if you guys have them. For those of you that jump off, definitely remember to schedule a free 1-hour phone or video mentoring session at indianapolis.score.org. So looking at the Q&As here, one of the questions was, does 2 clicks mean that they click twice in the email and then close the email? So it definitely depends on your service provider, but yes, usually it means that, hey, they've clicked on the email twice. Ask the question here, what's the best way to segment your email list, or how do you actually do it? And so it depends. So a lot of email providers provide that within the platform that you can segment it. And so you can segment it by people that have opened an email in the past 6 months, people that have clicked on a certain thing in the past 6 months. You can segment it by zip code, area code. It's whatever you have in your contact list that you can actually segment by. At the same time, you can export all those contacts and have them in Excel or a Google Sheets document, and you can segment it there and then re-upload it into the email provider. So definitely multiple ways that you can segment. So one of the questions here, what type of content would be good for custom-made high-price items? And then looking at the CTAs. And so, yeah, if you're doing more high-priced items, you definitely want to look more refined, custom-made, so very personalized. And so looking at calls to action for that, you know, look at other brands that are selling higher-priced items or custom-made items. See what words they're using and see how you can combine those for a call to action for yourself. Another one is how do you pick the right provider with so many options? So yeah, definitely hard to do as far as email marketing providers. So, you know, most of them offer free trials. And so whittling down as far as, hey, you know, I have 2,000 contacts. I want to send out, you know, 2,000 emails a month, helps you whittle down some of them as far as, okay, this is how much it's going to cost, or this is what I can do for free. So definitely understanding what you have. But then trialing them as well. So I think, as I mentioned, I've had people that used MailChimp because it was free and they've enjoyed it and had a great experience. At the same time, I've had people use it and, you know, after the first week trying to work with it, they're like, it's too hard. And they switch to Constant Contact and pay for it just because it's easier. So definitely trial and see what they offer and go from there. And then one question too, mentioning about CRMs and combining services. And so, yeah, the all-in-ones, there definitely are plenty of all-in-ones out there and they continue to keep coming. And so see what your needs are, right? So perhaps start with just an email marketing piece. And then as you need the other ones, you can look at switching or adding different ones to that. So I think Fresh Marketer is one that's part of a complete suite. And so you can start with Fresh Marketer as far as email marketing, and then if you need the other pieces like CRM or sales, you can add those pieces on separately. So one question here, how does a person know when it's email's opened? So basically that's what the email service provider does. So basically, hey, when the person clicks on it, it sends back that, hey, this person clicked on it, and so it knows. Likewise, hey, when it clicked on that call to action, it registered that also. And so that's basically how it registers all those things. And that's kind of what you're paying for, or you know, what the service they're offering is that it's tracking all those things for you. All right, anybody have any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everybody very much. Appreciate you attending this webinar. So once again, we'll be sending the presentation as well as this recording via email to everybody that registered. You'll be able to access it on YouTube as well. And thank you for joining. And please schedule your 1-hour free virtual or phone mentor session at indianapolis.score.org. Take care and have a great day.